Okay, so this is an interesting topic. Women in politics. Now, there's a lot of discussion on the the I mean, I guess it's an outdated term, but alternative right, rather, or the fringe right, or I guess the actual the right wing that doesn't get a voice in politics, but gets led astray by false what is it, leaders. And and you could say Donald Trump's a false leader. That's a separate question. But whatever the case may be, the dissident right, that's the word, the dissident right has been talking about this issue, women in politics. Now, it's an interesting question, right? A lot of people will talk about how the decline of America happened because we let women have the right to vote and they influenced our politics too much. Now, I would disagree with that, not because I think women should vote. I don't really give a shit if they vote, and I'm gonna get to that later. But the claim goes, what is it, that women are, women vote overwhelmingly for the based on emotions rather than logic. However, that's true for, and I know I'm going to sound like a libtard, but this is true. That is true for many men as well. Now, that doesn't mean, and a lot of people on the right will retort, well, I don't think most men should be able to vote. Fair enough. But the point is that only really a select elite few of let's just keep it honest. I'm not even Anglo-Saxon. I'm not. But the whole logic and reason and objective thing, that's for the elite, not even the common, but the elite of Anglo-Saxon men. That's it. Literally no one else. I'm not even trying to be a supremacist. I'm not saying their way of life is better, but I am saying I am white, but I'm not Saxon, and I don't carry their values because of my genetics, and because of my upbringing. I carry some of their values, but not all of it. And so the system that was initially designed for land owning rich white men, and that's not an insult, rich Anglo-Saxon men such as Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and the like. The system worked well because it was designed to their needs and evolutionary interests. Whereas if you import once you imported Irish and Italian and even some Germanic and Swedish or whoever else from Europe, it's not to say that it's a catastrophe, but it causes more friction within the system, right? It causes more chaos. And what I mean by this, I mean, look at the Civil War. Andrew Jackson opened it up for the common man to vote. What does the common man mean? Lower end Anglo Saxons, Irish people. Basically, that means that the rubes or the low lives or whatever of the society, maybe not low lives, but the industrial workers of the society get to have a direct say in politics, even if they're not as educated on the subject as someone like John Adams or George Washington. Right. So everybody's so and that caused a little bit of trouble because we just don't know. I'm kind of talking out my ass here, but we don't know what impact that really had on society. But we know that the 1800s was full of a lot of trouble. It wasn't. It was. But the country remained America. It was still all right. And now we got women. Right, women get the right to vote in what is it, in the 19th century, right? And essentially, uh, and essentially, let's get back to the focus at hand. I went on a tangent, but the focus at hand is the women and how they impacted the world, right? And how they impacted the voting world or the political world. And my dad used to always joke the women will always vote for the taller president, which is funny. I mean, it's probably true, but it is a funny joke. Um, but women, sorry, women voting because women are more emotional than men, of course. It's not to say men don't have emotions. I'm pretty emotional for a man. I'm very emotional. I'm not gonna lie, but most men are less emotional than most women. That's a clear statistical average. I mean that, and that's just objectively true. So women will vote based on emotions. Now, the point is that they insinuate that this is what caused the decline. I actually don't really think so. I think women voting in itself doesn't really matter. I don't I Because honestly, women are just going to vote for whatever the dominant man in society tells them to vote for. So it's just going to be a duplication of whatever either the husband in their life is voting for, or whatever like the TV says to vote for, pretty much. So it's basically just doubling the NPC vote, is what I mean. It doubles the it just doubles the people who listen to the idiot box or the TV, and it'll just duplicate it because women want to be socially accepted. It's part of their evolutionary strategy to reproduce. They want to be as socially acceptable and not crazy and normal to men, so they can reproduce. So that is why women voting, it doesn't really matter. I think the primary problem was taking women out of the home and putting them into the workforce, because now we have double the labor supply, and the labor supply, that means lower wages for everybody. Whereas if you just had the male labor supply to choose from, then the wages, there'd be less labor to pick from, so they'd have to be more competitive and give the shallower labor pool more money through compensation to do so. So and then so that means if women stay at home, higher wages for the man, the women gets to not wage slave at Amazon, raise the kids, and the kids have a mother in the home, and the father gets to have a living wage. So it's a much better scenario. And I feel like feminism, you know, is literally just the entire point of feminism is literally just to get women into the workforce as like slave labor. Like that's the point of feminism. Like the point of feminism, right? It took me a while to get here, but now I think I'm cooking. The point of feminism is to get women out of the home, and therefore to, I'm just going to say it, to lower the white birth rate. You know, that's the goal of this. Lower the wages, right? Get women out of the home, lower the wages. That means the man and the woman have to work to survive. And that means they can't afford to have as many kids. They don't get raised with mothers. So the whole goal of this is it's actually an alliance between progressives and capitalists, because capitalists get the cheap labor through multiplying the labor supply, and the progressives get less white people because this will lower the white birth rate. So progressives get less white people, and capitalism, which also benefits from less white people, but capitalism gets a bigger labor pool. So that's my take on this. I feel like women voting is not necessarily the problem. I feel like the problem is women being forced to leave the home. It's not to say women voting is like the best thing ever. I really could care less if women can't vote or they can. I just don't think it matters, because I think it's just, again, it just is like a non-factor. I think it's a complete neutral thing. Maybe slightly negative. But the bigger problem is women being forced out of the home, which is their natural role. That's what they like to do naturally. If you don't have any social stigma against it, I guarantee you, women will just like want to go to the home. And honestly, men don't want to work either. Neither of us want to work. The man has the burden of working. The woman gets it good under like this. Like you don't have to fucking go to work. You just get to stay home, raise children. That sounds way better than wage slaving at Amazon. So, yeah, the whole point of this was literally the whole point of feminism is not so women can vote to like make our governmental systems worse. It's really for lowering the white birth rate, getting the mothers out of the home, and destroying the family.